they quarantined him. He laid in bed for 21 days. On the 21st day, when they released him, they said he had to be vaccinated. He told them he didn't want to be vaccinated. And if they didn't think that he was capable of making that decision, they could have called me and I would have told him he didn't want to be vaccinated. But no, they said it's COVID protocol. They have to vaccinate him. So then they sent him home from rehab and he was fine. However, he was weak from laying in bed for 21 days and he fell once again. And once again, I called the EMTs and sent him back to the ER. He went to the ER, and as soon as he went to the ER, they called me and said, he has COVID. And I said to him, does he have a fever? No. Does he have a sore throat? No. Is he having trouble breathing? Oh, no, he's completely asymptomatic. We're going to put him on remdesivir. I said, well, if he's asymptomatic, why does he need to be on remdesivir? Oh, it's COVID protocol, has to be on remdesivir. And by the way, we're going to release him. So I said, okay, I'll come pick him up. Oh, no, he has to have special COVID transport. So he's discharged, he's laying in the ER, but COVID transport doesn't work on the weekends. So then it snowed, and they don't work in the snow. So he didn't come home for 3 more days, 5 more days from when he went in. And then they sent him home again. Well, meanwhile, he had laid in the rehab for 21 days. Now he had laid in the ER for another 5 days. So his legs were really weak. And when he came home, they sat him in this real soft chair, and he couldn't really get out of it. So I called the EMTs, and they came and they lifted him up and put him in a hard chair, which he could get out of, and he was able to get up and move around. But later on that night, he fell again, and of course I called the EMTs, and they came. Well, when they first came, they were all dressed in hazmat suits. When they came to lift him up out of the soft chair and put him in the hard chair, when they came back, they weren't even suited up because they said this man doesn't have COVID, and so they took him back to the ER, and the ER said that they were going to send him to rehab since he had fallen again. So we were waiting around for a COVID transport. He's laying in the ER, completely released, waiting for COVID transport. Finally, around 8:30, after 8:30, it was at least after 8:30, the nurse called me from the ER and said, he's going to be sent as soon as they transport. They're on their way. So I don't have no idea what time he went to the rehab. The next morning, I got a call and said, your husband died.
So I want people to kind of understand the time frame of this whole thing. So this was when he first was admitted. That was January 6th of 2021.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about so was that he was admitted multiple times, but that was the first time he was admitted. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So when he was admitted that first time, is that the time he had that they said he had COVID, or was it the second time?
He didn't have COVID the whole time he was in the rehab.
But when they said he
COVID until he came home and he fell and went back to the hospital.
right,
That's when they said he had COVID.
right. So he went to the rehab, and then they gave him. They gave him the shot then?
Yes, they vaccinated him on the last day before they sent him home.
And he didn't want the vaccine.
No, he told them no.
And they said it was protocol.
Protocol, yes.
And so just so people are thinking here in terms of, so that the shots came out. They were not FDA approved.
He had Moderna. He did not have the Pfizer or the Johnsons. He had Moderna.
It was Moderna. Okay, that was my next question, because in December of 2020 those shots came out, and in January I know they started kind of forcing
Yes.
that by policy, not by law, but by policy,
Right.
in the different facilities, the shots, this
Yeah.
nursing homes, because like people in nursing homes and and rehab facilities, they were kind of making them get these shots, and they had no authority to do that, but they did. They were experimental at the time. In my opinion, they still are experimental, even though the FDA rubber stamped them in 2021 August. But at the time, they were absolutely experimental. So they put these experimental shots into people. So then he goes home and he falls again.
He was
So
home. He came home. He was home for one day,
okay, he fell,
and
and
then
it,
he fell.
and then he went back to. He had to go to the ER,
Right.
and that's when they said he tested positive for COVID.
Right.
There, all right. And do you know how many days of remdesivir he got?
5.
5 days. Okay. Wow. So
7 days from the vaccine and 5 days of remdesivir before he died.
before he died. Okay. So what day did he die?
He died on February 5th.
February 5th, 2020.
He went to the ER on the 29th to the 30th. It was at night. It was late at night. It could have been. I'm not sure whether they said he had COVID on the 29th, because it was like
Yeah.
11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, or whether they said he had it on the 30th, like 12 a.m.,
Um,
in the morning. So, but anyway, that's when they said he had COVID. And they said, oh, don't worry, he's completely asymptomatic. And that's what his record shows.
mhm. But yet
And
they gave him remdesivir anyways.
yeah, because they said, and I asked him, why does he have to, and I knew nothing about remdesivir. But remdesivir, I found out the nickname is Run, Death is Near.
Yeah.
But anyway, that I knew nothing about it. But I asked him, why does he have to be on remdesivir if he's asymptomatic?
Hmm.
Oh, it's COVID protocol. We have to give it to him.
And
So
he was isolated. Well, you couldn't go see him, and he was
all I
isolated.
know he was in the ER. I have no idea because I wasn't allowed near the rehab. I wasn't allowed near the ER.
Okay.
He was completely isolated. And then they said that they checked him out and he was fine and they were going to release him. And I said, all right, I'll be over to pick him up. And they said, and I only live 2 miles from the hospital. Oh no, he has to have special COVID transport and they don't work over the weekend because now this was a Friday night or Saturday morning when he went in. Like I said, it was 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. I'm not sure, which it was. But anyway, it was over the weekend. And they said, no, they don't work on the weekend. And I couldn't pick him up. So then it snowed. And then they said, oh, they don't work in the snow. So then it snowed again. So finally, late on Wednesday afternoon, they brought him home. Um, and they put him in a very soft chair. And I couldn't get him up. And he didn't have the strength to get up out of the chair. So I called the EMTs and they put him they picked him up and they put him in a hardback chair, which he was able to get up and he was able to move around. He was able to go into the bathroom and everything, and um, he was fine as far as that was concerned. He was just a little bit weak. But then
We lost you, Nancy.
then he was on the kitchen floor. So I called the EMTs again, and this time when they came, they weren't suited up. And this man doesn't have COVID. And I said, no kidding. But they had to take him back to the ER, and that's when I had to give them all the hospital records to take back. And so then he went back to the ER, and they said he was fine. All his vitals were fine. The next day, when he was still waiting for the COVID transport, all his vitals are fine. Everything's fine. Blood pressure's fine. Like I said, he had no comorbidities. He didn't have cancer. He didn't have diabetes. He wasn't overweight. And he didn't have high blood pressure. Everything was, all those numbers checked out fine. The ER nurse assured me. Well, I'm assuming that they checked him since was discharged and waiting for a COVID transport. Then late that night, COVID transport finally showed up. It was after 8:30. I do know that because I talked to the nurse and she said, "Oh, they're on their way. They're going to be taking him soon to the rehab." And next morning, I got a call and they said he's dead.
And
So
and your husband
that's what
was
happened to him.
and your husband was fairly, I mean, he was healthy, right? Like
Can you hear me?
yeah, can you hear us?
I've lost you.
Uh
Can't
we
hear you.
we can hear you. We can hear you.
I can't hear.
Okay. So Nancy, so your husband Stephen, he was it Stephen or Steve that you called him?
It was Stephen. I called. Everyone called him Steve.
Everyone called him Steve. So he worked all the way up until the scamdemic.
Yep.
He taught real estate, or was in real estate.
Well, he taught real estate licensing school.
Oh, okay, real estate licensing school. Okay, and just so people kind of have a idea of the demographics of where this took place, because they'll see from our the project here, it happened everywhere. You know, I'm in Texas, Marsha's in Georgia. It happened everywhere from coast to coast, even Hawaii and Alaska. There's not one state that we haven't heard from. And but this particular your particular story unfolds in New Jersey.
Right.
In New Jersey,
South Jersey.
South Jersey. Okay. And the hospital that he was in, or the facility, was
Jefferson.
Jefferson Stratford,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Okay. So
there's Jefferson Cherry Hill in the same county. That's why I specified.
And how long were you and Stephen married?
58 and a half years.
58 and a half years. Wow. So, and he was in the Army, and he,
1 second here.
Sure, no problem. It sounds like your house is being robbed, but
yes, he was in the Army. Stop it!
It's in the military.
It never rains; it only pours. I had put a bag out for the VA, and they're picking it up, so my dog is barking right now.
Oh,
well, they're supposed to be between noon and 3. Well, it's a little bit late.
He does. The dog doesn't know they're supposed to be taking it. A job well done by the dog.
Yeah. Well, they're going to be gone soon.
Yeah,
because I only have one bag, and I'm assuming they came up the driveway to pick it up.
Yeah,
I haven't seen them get back in the car, but anyway, well, he stopped barking now, so it's okay. And then we had the the guy with the muffler go by. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that. That's the way it goes.
He's getting in the truck now, so one more second and the dog will stop barking. All right, it's enough, Kyle.
That's a good alarm system you have, Nancy.
Well, yeah. Actually, he loves people and he wants to play. That's
but they don't know that when
he thinks everybody that comes to this house is here to play with him.
Yeah, here to see him, to visit him, and he's disgusted when they don't.
Yeah. So okay, they're gone now. The truck is gone, almost gone. But anyway, he doesn't see him and he's not barking. Okay, so go back to your questions. I apologize.
Yes, so I was commenting on your husband was a healthy man. He was an active man.
Yes.
And did he have
he was active until the end of 2018 when our son died. And we both took that really hard, and he became, not so active, If you've ever lost a child, you'd understand what grieving does to you.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's deep grief. Very sorry.
Very tragic.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, when he was in rehab, did they work to help him get to where he could walk? I mean,
No, no, he laid in bed for 21 days. He was quarantined.
and that's crazy because rehab is supposed to get him
Exactly.
stronger.
Exactly. No,
So
that
why
was the
send him
problem.
back? Why send him back the second time from the hospital when they said they were going to send him back, but they
Well, it
killed
was
him
a different
instead?
rehab. It was a different rehab. And, like I said, I didn't know any of these things then,
Yeah.
that meant quarantine for 21 days. I found that out afterwards, long afterwards, that he was quarantined. I knew he was quarantined, but I thought he was still being exercised, like
Yeah.
in his room. No,
Right.
he just laid in bed. And of course, they lost his hearing aid, so he didn't have his phone. I don't know if he even had a phone in his room because nobody could talk to him when he was,
Yeah.
and when he came home, like you said, he said to me, they told me they had vaccinated him, and I told him they weren't supposed to, and they said, oh, it's COVID protocol. And when he came home, he says, I told them not to vaccinate me, but they did it anyway.
Yeah, and they had to have done that. I mean, if he got the Moderna, he would have gotten first shot and then second shot
No,
14
he didn't
days.
live for the second shot. He didn't live long enough. He only lived 7 days.
Oh,
He only lived 7 days after the second shot, and he was on remdesivir for 5 days.
yeah.
After,
And that,
so he only lived 7 days after they gave him that shot.
Were you able to report that to anybody at that time?
My
Or
grandson said the shot killed him, but
yeah.
like I was expecting him to come home. I couldn't. With the rehab, I thought they were going to say we're going to send him home and he can rehab at home. Like when I got the call and said, here's my friend again driving around the block. Anyway, they said that sorry, I got distracted.
It's okay.
Um,
Your grandson.
my grandson said, "Oh, the vaccine killed him." Neither one of us knew anything about remdesivir at that stage, and I didn't know anything.
Mhm.
Like I said, yeah, I know he didn't want to get the shot, but like, I just listened to what he said. I didn't associate it with. I didn't find this out like for a year, and when like I said, I started hearing things about the shot, and started hearing things, and until, I listened to the podcast with Don Jeffries, and then I bought his book and read his book, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what happened to him. That's when I
Yeah.
knew this was a year later.
Wow. So that is really what took you down the path to say, wow, they
I'm
murdered my
sorry,
husband.
I can't hear you for for the noise of
Yeah,
the.
no problem. I said that's what really so that's what took you down the path to say, he was killed by something not natural, but the shot and remdesivir and all of that.
Yeah.
Did when did you first hear, was it the podcast that you first heard about remdesivir and
Yes.
how it was run death is near?
Yes.
Yeah. Sounds like your grandson kind of knew what was up though. Like,
Well, he didn't. My grandson didn't want to get vaccinated either, and his
mhm,
wife is a hospital dietitian. She got a religious exemption,
mhm,
although like I don't know how she got a religious exemption, but she said no, that she wasn't going to get the shot either. And my husband and I said we weren't going to get the shot.
mhm.
Like we never wanted it, and and I believe he told them he didn't want it. And when they told me that, I said, you know, I didn't want him to be vaccinated. Oh no, it's COVID protocol. Too bad.
wow.
Well, they didn't
Yeah.
say too bad, but
So
All your
that's
rights, all his rights and all your rights were completely taken away from you.
absolutely. I couldn't
I'm
see
so
him. I
sorry.
couldn't visit him. I couldn't talk to him. They lost, by the way, the rehab lost all his clothes. Um, they sent him home with. It was like the Goldilocks. One size was too small, one size was too big, and one size fit him, but it wasn't his.
mm,
Uh, they lost his hearing aid. After I called the state for the third time, they miraculously found it and delivered it at 9:30 at night on a Friday night.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I have no idea what happened. And once when he was in the rehab and I tried to call him, they said, "Oh no, he's in dialysis right now." And I'm like, "What?" And then they said, "Oh,
Dialysis.
wrong patient. Sorry."
Oh yeah, that had to have been shocking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, sorry,
Going
wrong patient. Wrong patient. So I don't, I wasn't there, so I don't know. He didn't say he was in dialysis, and I think he would have told me if he was, but that's what they told me.
And that's the danger of having isolated patients the way that they
Exactly.
did. And, in rehab and nursing homes and hospitals, because they had nobody
Advocate.
to advocate or see or oversee their care, or,
Exactly.
they couldn't even communicate, hey, this is being done to me, or,
Isolation,
yeah.
No,
right?
he couldn't communicate because, like I said, I don't even know if he had a phone in his room. I tried to call him, and my son and my other son and my grandson and my granddaughter all tried to call him all days and all not all hours of the night, not after 8 o'clock because I know they shut the phones off. But no, and if he's quarantined in his room, where was he? Why isn't he answering the phone? So either he couldn't hear it because they had lost his hearing aid, or he didn't have a phone, or it was turned down so low. And I asked the social worker, "Can you please make sure they turn the phone up so he can hear it?" I didn't know they had lost his hearing aid. Never could talk to him.
Mhm.
That had to have been incredibly frustrating. Yeah, that happened to my dad too during that first year of
Yeah,
lockdown, where they lost his hearing aid and miraculously you couldn't talk to him.
yeah,
That seems to be very common. They seem to lose a very most important thing uh, that a patient needs, like a hearing aid or glasses. They
Right.
seem to misplace and lose those. That is, yeah, that's not
Well,
okay.
communication,
Yeah, like,
you know.
the hindering of of communication, and just
Mhm.
it's sometimes it's carelessness, and which shouldn't be acceptable either. But sometimes I feel like it's intentional so that patients could not reach out to their families and say what was going on.
yeah. I couldn't reach him, and he couldn't reach me. He didn't have his cell. When he went in, he didn't have his cell phone, so he had to rely on if there was a phone in his room, if it was turned on, if I mean, it was very frustrating.
When he came home from the rehab the first time and they gave him whatever shot it was, and he got back to the house, was he eating and drinking and acting normal, or
He
was
seemed
he
fine. He was just like I said. He was just weak, for,
right? Right.
from laying in bed, for 21 days. But he was eating. He was fine. There wasn't anything, that you would say, oh, if something's wrong with him. Like I said, he was just not real steady on his feet.
Right.
Right.
And
Other
that makes you afraid because if you call the EMT to come and help him get up in a chair, or because he fell to help him get up from that position, at this point, we would all be afraid to then go to the hospital because that's where all of these horrible things happen.
Yeah. Well,
So,
they didn't, like you said, they didn't happen in the hospital other than, they said, and that's another story. They said he tested positive for COVID. Well, I since learned that Dr. Carrie Mallis, who invented the PCR test,
Hmm.
I won a Nobel Peace Prize for it, said it should never be used for diagnostic purposes because
Yeah.
it will produce a 90% false positive result.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
Especially when they had just given him the shots, because the shot in and of itself could cause the it to test, oh, identify
Immune.
And they told me that he could have been, fallen because he was. He never said that he was dizzy, but he could have been dizzy or uh, unbalanced because they said the shot will do that to you too.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean that
Exactly. That's
he could have fallen from that. It might not have been because when he came home, my brother picked him up, and my brother has a truck, and he was able to get into the truck, get out of the truck, get into the house, walk around fine. He was fine. Like I said, he was just his legs were a little bit wobbly, but I mean he was able to still do that, still
yeah.
get up, walk around, move around. In fact, like when I had called when he fell that night, he had gone upstairs, and I have 21 steps that he had to go up. He had gone up 21 steps, and he fell in the bathroom upstairs. So I mean, he was up walking around. He wasn't,
Mhm.
without you know, uh, immobility. He didn't have to get, somebody, the EMTs didn't have to get him out of the chair until after he had, laid in the ER all that time. That's when they had to call and get him out of the chair.
Yeah. Yeah, and and just people that are watching this, it's good to put this in perspective of the time frame, because
Yeah.
in January of 2021, a lot of the information about remdesivir was very censored. You didn't have the big Clay Clark events and all of the events that were taking place where there was a lot of talking about remdesivir and don't
Well,
take
Fauci had
remdesivir.
tried, from what I learned, Fauci had tried to put remdesivir out uh, when the AIDS crisis happened in the
Yes.
80s. Then, when the Ebola crisis, he tried to bring it
Yeah.
out. And then he tried to bring it out again with the swine flu. And they said each time it was too dangerous. I didn't
Yeah.
know this at the time. But then all of a sudden, COVID, oh, now we've got to bring out remdesivir.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, multiple times, multiple
And then
failures.
Rand Paul's wife is on the board of Gilead, which produces remdesivir. So he made a fortune on remdesivir through his wife.
Everyone got rich, right? Everyone
Yeah.
got rich
Oh
during
yeah.
COVID except for we the people.
Yep.
Yeah. So, um, so is there anything else that you need to tell us about what happened at the through the rehab and COVID before we?
No, because like I said, I really didn't know, and he hadn't been vaccinated till the last day when he left rehab, and as far as I know, not being able to talk to him being quarantined. Uh, I have no idea what they did to him in the rehab. I do know that they lost his hearing aid and they lost all his clothes. And by the way, they did reimburse me for all his clothes because I said to him, I just bought him those clothes at Christmas. I said, so I expect to have his clothes back or have reimbursed. So I sent them a bill and they did reimburse me almost $100 for his clothes.
Yeah.
And the other thing was that, like I said, I called the state. The offices were all closed. They said they monitored their phones, and I have no problem with the state. They did monitor the phones. They did call me back each time I reported to them. However, when right after my husband died at 9:30 on a Saturday night, when everything's on lockdown, I get a call from the state and said, "Oh, you can't have the funeral. You have to quarantine yourself for 14 days."
I was going to ask you about that because of the time frame.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I had to postpone the funeral, and the funeral director said, and I said to the state, how about if I wear a scarlet letter? You know, and,
So,
it didn't go over too well. And the funeral director says, we have to, he says, we have to follow the law, the rules, not the law. There was no law.
yeah.
So I had to postpone the funeral for 2 weeks because
So,
I had to quarantine.
so
You know,
when you had the funeral, did they allow people to hug? Did they? Yeah,
No,
someplace.
no.
Yeah,
Mask, 6 feet apart, only so many people allowed. No.
that's incredible because you could be in your house and hug, but when you got to the funeral home, that didn't make any sense whatsoever.
No.
Like you literally could come in the same minivan together, like eight people or whatever, but you'd have to be 6 feet apart. You know, interesting.
Yeah.
That was terrible. That was absolutely terrible.
6 feet apart, no more than six people in a room. And you take the shot, you'll be 6 feet under.
Yeah, that's exact. Well, pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
So,
good
and
way to put
and
it.
then when I get the death certificate, it doesn't say anything like COVID. And I was talking to this happened a couple months later too. I was
Mhm.
talking to my family doctor, and I was telling him, and he said, do they have COVID on his death certificate? Because FEMA, would pay that, they were paying for funerals. And I said, no. And he said, if he had, if I said, well, his records show he's asymptomatic. He says, it doesn't matter. It should be on his death certificate. So I said, well, it's not. And he said, what did they put? And I said, well, they put cardiovascular disease. And he kind of laughed. He says, that's what they put when they don't know what happened.
Yeah, right. I see that all the time. It's
Yeah, he said,
exactly what they
that's what
do.
they put. And of course, like I said, no autopsies. They weren't allowed during COVID.
Yeah,
So then I called the fellow from that who had signed the death certificate at the rehab, which he was only there. That the doctor told me he had only been in the rehab for 5 hours. And he was dead. He said he was dead by the time I got here. He said nobody mentioned he had COVID. I said, oh, that's not interesting. So I said to him, he said, you're quite right. He says, I have been doing death certificates for 40 years, and not once have I ever amended a death certificate. He said, but yours needs to be amended. So then he said, I have to get the hospital records, and I will amend the death certificate, which he did. He amended the death certificate. Because meantime, I called FEMA and I said, I can get my hospital records, and they said that, quote unquote, he had COVID. No, it has to be on the death certificate. So I said, okay. So I sent it, and by the way, the death certificate doesn't say COVID. It says SARS 2 19 hyphen
yeah,
CoV. So there is
yeah,
no COVID. It's a SARS 2 virus,
yeah. It's
you know.
SARS.
But they did pay for the funeral then.
So they did pay. They did pay for it.
Yep.
Um. So let's go into talk a little bit about the the impact that this has had on your life and your family's life. It's been six over 6 years, right?
No, 5 years.
Over 5 years.
5
Over
years.
5 years.
Five,
Yeah.
yeah, 5.5 years now. Well, when my husband, because of his hearing loss, he had a VA disability. I lost that. I lost my Social Security, and I could only collect his, so I lost half of my income. So that was a big impact. Um, it was, it's been devastating, been horrible.
Yeah.
So I can tell you.
And does your family this in your family sometimes everybody is like on board and they know they're like, oh yeah, that person was killed. How is it in, like, obviously your grandson knows what's up because he said that he was killed by the shot, but like in your family, is it kind of like a split, or does everybody know that either the shot or it was probably remdesivir, and the shot put him there, and then remdesivir
I
killed
don't.
him?
I don't think they know about remdesivir because they really don't want to talk about it. But my son that's still living, he never got the shot, and my grandson and his wife never got the shot. My granddaughter, that my grandson's daughter, never got the shot. He wouldn't allow it. In fact, he won't even send her. He's doing homeschooling
Yeah.
because here we go again.
Yes, they got a fast car.
This is like a drag strip tonight.
It is.
Um, but like he won't send her to public school. He'll
Yeah.
do homeschooling because he said she is not going to get those vaccines. I will
Yeah.
not let her. I will not let her subject to her to vaccines
Good for him.
because there's people have said that the vaccine has caused autism.
Yeah, exactly. Good for
Uh,
him. Homeschool's the way to go. My grandkids are homeschooled too.
yeah. Well, that's what he's doing. He's homeschooling now. My one granddaughter, she got the shot and she hasn't had any ill effects. My great grandson, because he was in school, he got the shot. He hasn't had any ill effects from it. Because he couldn't go. Well, he was out of school for a year and a half because the schools were closed. So he missed a year and a half of school because of
Mhm.
COVID. But then to go back, of course, he had to get the vaccine. Couldn't get back into school without the vaccine. But
Mm.
fortunately, they neither one of them have had any ill effects from it. My other granddaughter, stupid, she wanted to go to a concert uh, 2 years ago, and you couldn't get into the concert unless you had a vaccine certificate. So she got vaccinated.
Oh my gosh,
Now,
for a concert.
since then, she's had ovarian cancer, and now they say she has lung cancer.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she's 40.
Oh my goodness.
So, was it the vaccine? I don't know, but I certainly suspect that that had something to do with it.
Did you report it to VAERS at all with his lot number?
Uh, I don't remember the lot number. I don't think I had that. I just know it was Moderna, but I
Yeah.
did report it to VAERS.
Okay. Did they give you a case number? Did they open a case or no?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't have any case number on that.
Hmm.
Um, and the same thing with the VAERS. There's not a whole lot of. If you go to look on the VAERS site, I mean, when I first went on, there was like thousands. Now I think that if you go on the VAERS site, there's only a couple hundred. They've scrubbed that site.
Yeah, that's why Albert forget his last name, but he's Welcome the Eagle on X and Substack. But he created VAERSaware.com, VAERS Aware, and
Okay.
they Julie Threet is she's done her interview, her story and her mom's story are on our website, but she's part of like the BPUSA advocacy network, and she is a VAERS Aware lead investigator, and they have created a system, a place where there's all of this data around, the different lots and the reports, and people also report there so that they can get data out, because you can't trust the VAERS system.
No,
Only one.
no.
Yeah, there's so much that's not there, and and she does a lot. I'm going to send, when your interviews published on our site, I'm going to send it over to her. But her mother died. Her mother was killed by the shots, and she's shot injured. So she goes around the state of California, up and down the coast, to different meetings with Ronald Owens to talk about this. So what's tell us what one of your favorite memories with Steve is.
All of them, really. I don't know whether that I have a favorite. I mean, uh, we were happy, and like I said, 58 and a half years of happiness. That they were all good memories.
Yeah, that's it. When you have 58 years of happiness, that's a life well lived.
Yes.
Yeah, and children and grandchildren and a legacy. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are incredibly sorry about what happened to your husband.
Yeah.
And I hope we'll see some kind of some whatever justice is, whatever it means,
I
what
would just
accountability.
like to see the news, and of course, the news is
Yeah.
owned by the drug companies. All the news stations
Yeah.
are owned
Yeah.
by the drug companies. But I would just like to see somewhere along the line a news report that all the public can see, that says the vaccine was dangerous and it's killed all these people and injured all these others. Everybody I know that has had the shot, um, especially the older people. Fortunately, my granddaughter and my great grandson did not have side effects from it, which I'm thankful for. But all the other people I know, my friends that all, they all believe in it. Oh no, I'm nuts, for saying that this happened. You know, um, they are constantly sick. They have had COVID
Yeah.
numerous times. Um, they have all kinds of illnesses since then, and they just don't associate it with the shot. And every time one of them says, "Oh, I'm sick," or "Oh, I have COVID now. I have COVID again," it's like,
I know.
yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah, I know. I know. I feel the same way. Like it's like, but the wonderful thing is people are starting to wake up on that end of things, and if we could just get them to wake up on the protocols, that would be great. Well, I want to encourage people to do multiple things. I want to encourage people to share this story and go on our website, betrayalprojectusa.org, and share other stories, watch and share other stories. We have the protocol stories, we have the shot stories, and we have the other medical stories like um, the betrayed or murdered in hospice, nursing home stories,
Oh yeah.
those types of things under that.
Oh,
And if,
I mean, like I tell people that they don't understand this. I said the shot was a depopulation.
yeah,
That was the purpose of it. I said if they had everybody die like my husband did within the first week, that somebody they would have caught on to it. But no, they've had everybody they die over a period of years, or get sick over a period, or have injuries that are caused by it over the years, so that people don't realize it. And I tell them there's at least 3 different shots. One is very low dosage, which probably is what my one granddaughter and my great grandson had. There's dosage that has like 30%, whatever this, the poison is, and they have injuries, but they don't die. And then there's ones that have the 100%,
the
like my
kill.
husband and
Yeah,
probably my brother-in-law. Like I said, my brother-in-law had the shot in December. He died December 2020. He died in June on my birthday. And from the time he had that shot, he was in and out of the hospital with myocarditis. In fact, they were going to give him a heart transplant. That's how bad he was. And then finally they said, "There's nothing we can do. We're going to send you home on hospice." And then he died, a couple of days later.
yeah,
So I mean, like, do I think he died of the shot? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
yeah,
And like I
yeah,
said, his wife's dead, so I can't talk to her because she died. She didn't take the shot. As of when my brother-in-law died, but then I suspect that
well,
she
there's this,
she took the shot later because she died on Christmas Day, Christmas
yeah,
morning. 6 months after my brother-in-law died. And they supposedly said she had COVID.
yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's,
but I don't know if she ever had the shot.
yeah,
But like she hadn't had the shot as of when my brother-in-law died. But that doesn't mean she didn't get it later
yeah.
within that
And
6 months.
there's also the shedding. The shedding is a factor, is what they're finding out. The spike is the spike, the spike
Yeah.
protein is the
Yes.
spike protein.
Yes, I know.
So, and I also want to encourage people to go on our website and volunteer, and go on our website and Just support the cause, volunteer, tell your story. There's a million ways to do it, and make sure that in this day of all these new pandemics coming out, the PrEP Act was just extended.
Oh,
And
of course.
it was actually expanded now to include the hantavirus. So we're trying to fight that. That's not good.
No.
Make sure you have your ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, budesonide, know where you're going to get it. And I want to encourage people to go to idonotconsentform.com. Make sure you have that filled out and ready to go. There's a million reasons why you could end up in a hospital, and you need to be prepared.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
told my grandson, I said, if I fall or anything, never send me to the hospital. In fact, I was thinking of putting on my arm no remdesivir, but remdesivir has a new name, like V something. It begins with a V.
Well, so here it's Veklury, and that's the brand name.
Yeah,
Remdesivir is the
there's the generic. Yeah.
generic name, but the putting it on your arm doesn't work. But Laura Bartlett, Dr. Richard Bartlett's sister, she worked with a whistleblower and they came up with it's the website is idonotconsentform.com, and it kind of works the opposite of, like they're not giving you informed consent. So it's based kind of off of the way the Mennonites and the Jehovah Witnesses had the exemption where they don't give them blood product,
Right.
right? And so it's that kind of form, and no doctor will not do it. And the form is incredible.
And the form is called
idonotconsentform.com. If you go to, I'll send you the link. I'll send you the link via email.
Yes, because I will go there and I will make sure that it's filled out.
And then you have it ready for if you ever go to the hospital, and you have it couriered so that the CEO and everybody, and I've seen it used twice recently with people who had somebody killed in a hospital, and then they had to go in the hospital, and they got the red carpet treatment. Like they wouldn't dare, because you have to be very specific and the simple language to tell them, I do not consent to this, I do not consent to this, so that they don't do those things. And so
Yeah.
I'll send you the link for it. And it's also in our resources, but very important. And she's always happy to help people if they don't understand how to use it.
Yeah,
So,
and that's good.
Well, Nancy, we thank you for being, so willing to tell your story publicly. That is sometimes a barrier for people, but we all have to speak out or nothing will change.
Well, this is the only format I can speak out on, because if I say it to any of the other people, they look at you like they don't want to hear it. Oh no, that can't be. They don't believe it.
Where in reality, every news camera,
she's a crackpot. Oh, she's weirdo. So I don't say it. Like I say, my grandson, he knows. My son knows, not to get the shot. And my other granddaughter, you can't convince her, because, like I said, her son had to go back to school, so he had to get the shot, and she got it. Unfortunately, she hasn't had any ill side effects. But my other granddaughter, had ovarian cancer. Supposedly, it was operated on and taken care of. And as soon as she went back for her checkup for that, they said the ovarian cancer was gone, but now she has lung cancer. So, and like I said, she wasn't going to get the shot, but she wanted to go to some concert, so she got the shot so she could have the certificate.
Yeah. Dr. Margaret Aranda has a great Substack called The Rebel Patient, and she has a cancer protocol on there that her husband did and was cancer free. And it's been quite effective. Of course, it's the ivermectin fenbendazole protocol.
Apricot seeds.
Yeah, it's
The
it's out.
RNC, the RNC, the Richardson Nutrition Center.
Yeah,
There's a few
yeah,
others that have,
yeah,
protocol that, uh, not this crap that they want you to do.
yeah. That they want you to do the it's the protocols that they're trying to hide, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to make sure that was the first deadly protocol was those cancer protocols, and then HIV, and then so on and so forth. So
Oh yeah. The um. Oh, what is his name? It's on the tip of my tongue. He wrote the Dr. Jekyll Island about the Federal Reserve. He wrote
oh
that,
yeah, yeah.
and he wrote a book about cancer free because the Richardson said that they'd lose their medical license if they wrote it, but he's not a doctor, so he could write it.
So he could write it. Yeah. Yep. This has been going on a long time. Didn't start
Yeah.
with COVID and it ain't ending with COVID.
Oh no.
Uh, so, well, we appreciate you. And I want to just remind everybody that Marcia Joyner has a book out there on Amazon called Betrayed by Hospice Stories from the Deathbed. And it is a must read so that you know what to look for if somebody you love is put on hospice or you are approached or you it is suggested that you put a loved one on hospice. This she always says knowledge is power, and it certainly is power.
Right. Right.
So, yeah. So
Yeah, I think that's. I think if you send me the link to that, I would like to see that book.
sure, I sure
And by
will.
the way, I offered to buy the Don Jeffries book for the library, and they won't take it. They
Oh
won't order it,
wow.
and they won't take it. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
that. Like his book, Masking the Truth, is banned. But I told anybody if they promise to read it, I'll buy them the book.
Wow. That is incredible. They wouldn't take it. Interesting.
No, I tried to get them, and then they said, "Oh no," and then they said, "Oh, we only buy books from a certain vendor or whatever." I said, "Well, all right, how about if I buy the book for you
Yeah.
and donate it to the library?" Oh no, we can't do that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't have it used to be a place where you could go to get educated, but not anymore.
No.
But they'll probably put a book in just all sorts of books about going from a woman to a man
Yeah.
or vice
And
versa.
I can tell you from talking to to Don Jeffries from being on his podcast and getting occasional email and talking to him that the book is banned. I wanted to put a review on Amazon. I don't know if the review's there, but they won't even let you put the review about the
Oh,
book.
wow.
So
Interesting. All right. I'm going to check that out. All right. All right. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate
okay,
your time.
Yeah.
okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. And